Abby someone. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby normal.
Skull Island.
We're supposed to do it in sync.
No.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Bruce Campbell, and this is my guest, Wanda Sykes. So let's get this show on the road. Baby, tell me, did you love it or hate it? In 2 words, love it or hate it.
Neither.
That was one. It was neither. It was
Okay,
one word.
neither. That's 2 words.
What?
I said okay, neither. That's 2 words.
Okay, neither. I will just explain neither then. All right, yeah, fine, neither. Okay, yeah, neither. I didn't love it or hate it.
Yeah, I'm very non-impressed with this film.
Okay. What did you feel like was off? Like the tone?
Yeah. It was kind of like a mixture of what you think a King Kong Skull Island visit would be like.
Yeah.
If you mixed in like Full Metal Jacket.
Well, or that and like it was
that was throwing me off.
Yeah, I completely agree.
The tone that was just really putting me like not in the right space for Kong. I felt like
because like Kong, like the whole thing I was feeling with the movie, and it's something that I feel every time I watch that Kong Skull Island movie is that it feels like they're trying to do that because like movies have done this lately where they try to have this amazing fucking soundtrack, you know, and it has to be so colorful. Like, oh my God, the colors, they use so many color palettes, you know, like whenever Tom Hiddleston was like with the gas mask in that place and they had like the toxic gas and it was all this green.
Yeah.
screen.
And then they have like the orange smoke and they've got like the sunset with like the vivid yellow and orange.
Well, I mean, those shots I was okay with, but then there's just a bunch of others, you know, that it was just such a colorful, and I feel everyone, like a lot of people say that, you know, they try to be like Guardians of the Galaxy because a lot of people are saying that nowadays because they want the Guardians of the Galaxy had a really awesome color palette, had a really awesome soundtrack, and of course it's been done before, but they kind of really steered really hard into that, and so a lot of other movies are kind of trying to copy that feeling. I just don't feel like that was a smart thing to do with Kong. It did not feel like the kind of movie that needed that at all.
The colors that were used were the least of my problems with this film. And the soundtrack is cool, but those are the same songs that we hear anytime Vietnam is ever mentioned in any film ever. I'm sick of hearing all the same songs being associated with the Vietnam War. Now, don't get me wrong. I know these songs, you know, were popular during this era in the 70s, but can we just not like you know, I mean, and not only that, but I even feel like the helicopter scenes with the music is also kind of Predator like. You know, they're heading to the jungle and they're about to fight an unknown force that they don't know about, and they're, you know, jamming this music, and you know, they're soldiers, and it was just like, you know, none of this felt original to me. It just felt like taking a bunch of, like, you're just taking a bunch of little things from a bunch of other, you know, really great movies and trying to plug them into this because you want to make a great film, but you can't come up with your own ideas.
That was exactly what I was trying to like say. You're exactly right. You're so smart. Like, you're so beautiful. Like it's the mimosa I drink. It was just trying to do. It was all these other movies and like, we'll take this, we'll take that, we'll take that, we'll take this, and that'll make a Kong movie somehow.
Yeah, like we're gonna take a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
The only thing that I think that was original,
a dash of this,
which was something that I fucking hated, was the goddamn scroll crawlers. I hated the way those fucking things looked. But the whole tone.
Do you know what they remind me of? Their head and their face. They remind me of in Beetlejuice. Whenever, you know what I'm saying?
I already know it.
Yes. Whenever, whenever she is like, you know, whenever she like pulls her head, and that's exactly like in him. Whenever he like pulls his head up and he like, you know, his eye sockets and his teeth. That's exact. I'm like, somebody
pure
again,
accuracy.
Yeah, again. So I couldn't take them seriously because all I could think of was Beetlejuice when I saw him. And I'm sorry, this film was grotesque. It was, I mean, every Kong movie that's ever been made, of course, because Kong lives on Skull Island, there's all of these creatures, these nightmarish creatures that humankind has never encountered before. They're big, they're just otherworldly. And I get that. I get that has to be an element because he lives in this on this island that has been untouched by humanity other than the natives that live here for centuries, probably millennia. And so, I mean, I get that there's these ancient species there, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like it had to be as obnoxiously grotesque and gory as it was. I did not care for that at all. I don't feel like you have to have that in a monster film like this.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a perfect example to like what you're talking about, like the horror elements and like the grotesque elements in this movie is with Peter Jackson's movie. Because like when the bug pit, when they fall into there and all these bugs are coming after them, that is a fucking nerve-wracking horror scene in a movie that's really not that horror.
Watch.
It is difficult to watch, and it makes you feel sick and just, like you feel. And there's no music playing, and so all you can hear is the bugs crawling literally towards them, and there's cries like, and there's like no sense of hope. Like, you know, it's just. I mean, of course.
And
Jack Black turns into like Kung Fu Panda and starts whipping the fucking shit out of these bugs. But
what a horrible way to go to.
It was horrible. But that is a horror element. But this in this Kong Skull Island, like it feels more like a Quentin Tarantino kind of blood, Sam Raimi kind of horror where it's just blood and grotesque and let's vomit on their face, you know, and it didn't feel right, you know. And I mean, maybe you could make it work, but it just that kind of like over the top grotesque horror generally only works in horror comedies. You know, there's a sense of like levity to it, and I guess there was a sense of levity to this movie, but it was just so off and on. The tone changed constantly, so you never really got to feel like you were in one type of movie from one scene to the next.
It was just gross. It was just gross.
I don't give a damn what movie it's in. I don't like it.
It was just gross. I mean, okay, when you're watching a monster film, you expect to see some kind of, you know, something. I mean, especially if it's Kong, because Kong is not like a Titan type creature like Godzilla or the Mutos or anything like that. I mean, he bleeds, you know, like Godzilla. I never see any like blood. Like I don't think Godzilla is going to have like regular blood. I don't know. I never see that. You don't ever see like blood gushing from his neck or anything. I mean,
because those movies didn't have the fucking balls to make Godzilla bleed.
You know, we're not talking about that right now. You know, but it's like you never really, you know, and even like the Mutos and stuff, like you don't really see like it's not blood, and it's like, you know, because these are different types of creatures, so they don't just bleed like regular warm-blooded, you know, mammals like us. And because I feel like there, you know, you can have a serious movie like this, like a drama, you know, action film, and have these, you know, elements of humor, because I think that's kind of part of human nature. Some people react to a traumatic, stressful environment like this sometimes with humor. So I mean, you know, and especially for John C. Reilly's character, who's been stranded on this island for, you know, 28 years or no more than that. That's about right, because he crashed into there in like 44, and they're there in like 70 something. But I mean, so you know, I can understand there would be some humor, but the way they went about it was all wrong. Where they placed the humor was always in a spot where there needed to be a serious, because they were talking about serious elements that you really kind of needed to feel, things that you really needed to understand, and it was just really poorly placed, and it also felt forced. And it was not. It's like they were placing the humor there because they felt like we have to put some humor here. We have to make it work, but it didn't. But they were trying to force it to work.
That's another trope that a lot of movies are doing, and I think maybe we're finally getting out of it. I'm hoping so. But like Marvel had a very specific type of humor, and there's no doubt that Marvel's had a major influence on films. And they always had this type of humor to theirs. And for them, that was their thing that they established. It made sense to expect that in those movies. But then a lot of other movies tried to emulate that and put that into their movies. And like here, I feel like they're still trying to do that Marvel type humor, and it's a lot of the times it's like this. Awkward. Like
it came off feeling like a Guardians of the Galaxy, only not good.
Yeah, and it's like it's that awkward humor that I hate. This type of awkward humor, like it's great. I like it. It's great. Yeah,
I'm sorry. We were gonna do that. Oh, we did. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
well, yeah. Well, he went for it the first time. I don't know why he wouldn't the second time.
Yeah, and they just go this back of like, fuck off. No, stop. like it's not. I don't like that humor, and maybe other people love it, But it didn't feel original, and it was just, it felt out of place, especially in the moment what we were doing. We were talking and establishing scenes and characters and threats, And you just established this major threat, the skull crawler, right? And I talked about how he killed King Kong, and we're gonna finish this with a joke.
Well, no, I mean,
Or killed King Kong's parents.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think this one skullcrawler killed two, basically Kong's parents, two of them. He killed two of them. If two of them couldn't kill this thing, then how, so you're sitting here thinking, shit, how's Kong going to kill it?
Precisely. And that's the perfect time to tell a joke.
And it's supposed to be, because, okay, you got to think, they're on Skull Island, which is the most terrifying place on earth known to man at this point in time. I mean, there are nightmarish creatures that don't even look like creatures. You're just walking through a bamboo forest, and all of a sudden the
bamboo is actually a spider leg.
Yeah, the bamboo tree impales you to death. I mean, it's scary. You can't be off guard for a second. I mean, I would be petrified. And yet they're cracking these really weird, ill-placed jokes, and they're not even funny jokes. It's just like, it just feels super lame. Like there's always that one dude you went to school with that always tried to fit in with everybody. And he always tried to, like, when people are telling jokes and laughing, and he tries to come in and say a joke after everybody, but it's not funny. And it's just, and everybody just kind of stops and kind of looks around like that was awkward.
Like, oh, great. Moment's been ruined now.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how all of the humor in this film, that's how every bit of it made me feel, just like that. It sucked. It just sucked.
Like the humor and the tone like go back and forth, like they didn't commit to any of the tones they wanted to set, and they didn't even commit to any of the decisions they were made. For example, like towards the end, that one soldier guy who's just fucking weird, and everyone's like, did you ever grow up as a normal child and everything? For that, I forget that actor. You see him in a bunch of stuff. But he starts having the grenades. He's going to sacrifice himself to the skull crawler, right? And he's supposed to have this awesome moment. And the skull crawler's like, yeah, no, fuck you, dude. Just hits him with his tail.
That was bullshit.
I get that it makes the villain smart. You're like, oh, Will's a smart creature. He's not going to fall for it. That's great. But you do that with like some no-name character who you haven't built any investment time with. Not somebody who has been built as this guy who's like, just... and he was going to have this moment of like actual emotional, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And they're like, yeah, no fuck. You know what it felt like? It felt like that fucking scene in Last Jedi where Finn almost sacrifices himself. And Rose Tico fucking just comes out of nowhere and stops it.
I was going to make that comparison.
That scene was fucking brilliant, and they just ruined it. Like, what the fuck? He didn't even have to kill the Skullcrawler. But if maybe he just wounded it a bit, because that would have made sense. Because like this thing killed Kong's parents. And if he had just wounded Skullcrawler just a little bit, that would have given Kong just a little bit of an up to make him defeating it make sense.
Oddly enough, considering that character, which I think he calls him Cole. I think Cole was his last name in the film. He's probably the character that talks the least, and I feel like I understood him more than anybody else, because it becomes pretty clear that he's just a soldier. That's what he is to the core. That's even you kind of get the sense that he was raised in that way, to kind of compartmentalize emotions and just focus on the task at hand and just just be a good soldier. So like, I felt like I understood his character more than anybody else's. Everyone else's character in the film, I'm like, I don't get you. Why are you here? Why was your character even relevant? You just fuck you. I mean, it's like none of these characters really make any sense to me. But I feel like I understood his character, and I felt like him sacrificing himself, to me, that made sense, because what else was he going to do once he got back to America anyway? I mean, most soldiers have a hard time adapting, which is ultimately the problem with Samuel L. Jackson's character in this film. He does not know how to not be at war. That's what he is. He's a war dog. And so I felt like the way that they just literally tossed off his sacrifice was not only disrespectful to the actor, but to the character. Yeah. It really ticked me off. Because I'm like, this is ultimately something extremely brave. It's one thing to sacrifice yourself. It's another to sacrifice yourself to something like the skull crawler. Those things are nasty and they eat you. And it's like, and he was good with it, you know, and they just fucked him right off. And that was some bullshit. I didn't like that at all.
I agree. About the cast, the actors themselves. Do you feel like they were good for their roles? And even if they weren't, do you feel like they did at least a decent job? What do you think about this cast?
I don't feel like this movie was cast well at all.
I agree.
I actually can't think of a single character. Well, the other scientist that comes in with John Goodman. There's John Goodman and then the other guy that's with him.
Right.
John Goodman, I love John Goodman. I love him.
Could have went without him though.
But yeah, I just wasn't feeling that. Now, Brie Larson, I'm not even going to touch it, not even going to go there. Her character was completely inconsequential. In the real world, a photographer that does the line of work she does would not do something like this. She would not have been there had this even been remotely a real thing. There's no way. And not only that, but this is supposed to be a secret government operation, and yet they have a member of the press or someone like a famous photographer that, you know, takes photographs of the war and things like that. They're going to have this person there. I'm not thinking so. I'm not thinking that at all, especially not if they want to keep things under wraps. That makes zero sense.
Tom Hiddleston.
Why? Who thought of this? Like, okay, now don't get me wrong. I love Tom Hiddleston.
Great actor.
I think he's phenomenal. I love him to death. And not only is he a phenomenal actor, but he is an absolutely beautiful human being.
Not a mercenary though.
No.
Not a mercenary.
I'm not getting, you know, because I feel like this role was supposed to be like your typical, you know, he's supposed to be a brooding badass. Basically, he's supposed to be someone who's jaded and has seen some shit and has got nothing to lose. So he takes on these missions and he's a badass. Like he's been in tough spots. He knows what to do. I'm sorry, Tom Hiddleston doesn't give me that vibe.
See,
Just
I
not
actually
feeling
don't
that.
think it had to be like some brooding character. But you know who I think would have worked? Like if this was like dream casting, we don't have to worry about time frames of what actor's alive at what time or, you know, what point of their career. You know who actually would have been great to see in this at a certain point in time? Brendan Fraser. Like make him the goddamn mercenary. Like he's not this brooding guy.
Mummy era Brendan Fraser.
Yes.
Yeah, that would
precisely.
But except for the fact, I mean, don't be wrong, action wise, yeah, he was awesome. But also he had an element of like charm and kind of like comedy at the same time.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that's funny.
Now, I'm not saying I want Brendan Fraser in the Kong movie that I would make. I'm just saying with the version of Kong that they made for this film, that might have been the better way to go.
Yeah.
Because I still don't think they went in the right direction with the tones.
Not at all. Samuel L. Jackson, he always is good at playing, you know, some crackpot soldier. I mean, he's always good at a role like that. But ultimately, I didn't understand why his character was relevant to the story. And you and I talked about this already, is that he didn't even need to be in the film. Like that character didn't even need to exist. Therefore, you know, cast wise, he shouldn't even have been a part of it. Now, don't get me wrong, he plays the part really well, but just didn't see the need. The other soldiers, they're soldiers. I guess they're cast okay, but
soldier number 1, 2, and 3, or 4.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing.
Actually, there's
that
a fuck ton of people, not just 1, 2, or 3, or 4.
Yeah, there's really nothing that sets them apart. I can't even remember these people's names.
There's too many characters in this fucking movie.
That's just how difficult that it is, and the casting for it. I'm sorry, they just didn't make the greatest casting choices. Now, maybe it came down to the simple fact that they tried offering the roles to other people and people turned it down. That's always a possibility. But I just overall felt like it was horribly cast. John C. Reilly, very odd choice.
Yeah.
Like he just pops up in this film out of nowhere, and like the last thing he had done before that was like what the vampire's assistant or something. I don't know. I mean,
but that's the worst part is because John C. Reilly, everyone like nowadays is like Step Brothers and all these like Will Ferrell movies.
He's so much more than that.
He's so much more.
He started on Broadway. More. Like he is extremely
Gangs of New York,
talented.
motherfucker. Like,
yes,
he's a fantastic actor.
Yes, he is supremely talented.
So it's not
but
that he couldn't have played this role seriously, but they still had him play
that
Will
goofy,
Ferrell, John C. Reilly.
Shake and
you know?
bake. They still had him playing this weird dude. Like, but like it just, I didn't get it. I just wasn't feeling that. It was all wrong.
If he
It was
had
all
actually-
wrong. It was the wrong tone.
That's the wrong tone. You do it again, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron. That was a worst. That was the worst impression ever.
You and me
Full
both.
Boston
I
with
think
it.
I sounded more like I had a speech impediment.
But
I can't do accents.
But if he had actually played like serious John C. Reilly with this role, he could have done it. But they still like, no, we want funny John C. Reilly. Fucking why? This movie doesn't need that tone.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's the thing. This movie didn't know what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it wanted to be gruesome and horrific, or if it wanted to be funny, or if it wanted to be just action, adventure. This film had no idea what it was doing. It was a quilt. It was a patchwork of ideas that worked for other films, but did not work together as a whole for this film. It's
a quilt. That's what we're gonna here on Abby Normal Reviews. That is how we're going to compare movies from now on. Is it a blanket or is it a quilt?
Or is it a comforter?
Yes, exactly. Is it what is a comforter? Is Princess Bride a comforter?
Princess Bride is a comforter.
This is how we rate movies now. Is it a quilt or is it a fucking? It's a sheet. It doesn't even do the job.
It barely even touches.
Oh my god, we found our rating system. Fuck yes.
We're gonna use blankets.
Yes, fuck you, Jeremy Johns. You think you're unique with your goddamn "it's a good time with no alcohol required," and all this other bull. Fuck you. We rate movies by blankets.
As somebody's gonna send this to him, and he's gonna be like, "Hey,
son of a bitch, genius." Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after this message. Are your children sick of hearty, healthy breakfasts? Are you tired of having to work hard at parenting? Then give your kids a big old bowl of Trix cereal, full of ingredients that even we don't know what they are. We even used to make each flavor in a different shape, but we stopped giving even that little bit of a fuck. And now we feed your kids sugary, spray-painted sugar balls. So, what are you waiting for? As the white supremacist rabbit says, Trix are for children with bone deficiencies. Back to the show. Whose story should we? Whose story should this movie have focused on? Like, out of all the characters, you had a fuck ton of characters in this movie. Like, you remember that scene where they finally all reunited and they were heading to somewhere? There was like this horizon shot, right? And there was like, it looked like a fucking Lord of the Rings shot, where you just see the silhouettes of all these people walking. Except there was a fuck ton more than even the Fellowship of the Ring. So there's a fuck ton of characters. Whose story should we have focused on?
I really felt like we should have focused on John C. Reilly's character, and I felt like he should have not, like we already discussed, that they shouldn't have included, goofy John C. Reilly. This should have been a moment for John C. Reilly to really use his acting chops, because he has them. I wanted to know more about him, and I wanted to know more about
Gunpei.
Yeah, about Gunpei. And, I wanted to get to know what their life was like together on this island all these years after they crash landed here. And after when they crash landed, they were trying to kill each other because they were enemies at this time during World War II. But then they see Kong, and then, there's a cutscene. You don't know anything else about what happened. Like, how, did they just immediately at that point stop fighting and say, okay, well, there's obviously a bigger threat than just the two of us to each other, so maybe we should just be friends. But you have to think there had to have been a long period of time, because not only was there probably a language barrier between the two of them, because Gunpei probably didn't speak English. I wanted to know more about them. I want to know more about John C. Reilly, what his life was like crash landing here, what his life was like becoming friends with Gunpei, and how they were able to put aside, their ties to their countries and just be humans and get to know each other and be friends. I want to know how he became close to the natives on this. I wanted to know more about his character.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I couldn't agree more. There was two characters. All this other soldier bullshit, I don't think we should have focused on. The movie opens up on Themyscira and it's fucking perfect.
Yeah, I pointed that we watched it and I was like, Dude, they're on Themyscira. It looks just like it.
Right, and so it starts off really strong, and then like you said, they're fighting. It's these two people in this war, and this war apparently is just everything they're focused on. They just see an enemy with these people. Whenever Kong shows up, it kind of makes the size of him and him looking at these two like small people fighting. It should make you all the differences and the quarrels that we have with one another should feel insignificant in comparison to looking at Kong. And so that was a really cool shot. You have these what they started the movie off with, but I actually think we should have stopped it after John C. Reilly and the beginning, after the end of the opening of the film. I think immediately we should have went straight into Samuel L. Jackson's character. Now you have to have Monarch, to an extent, because this is still trying to tie into the Godzilla universe and all that. That makes sense. But we should have started from Samuel L. Jackson and gone all the way to the end with Samuel L. Jackson. And whenever Samuel L. Jackson's character meets these Monarch people, that's when we meet the Monarch people. And we don't focus on them. They are just there to really establish a universe. They're not people we get invested in, right? And they're the people who make him lose his team or whatnot. And we need to make him lose most of his team. It needs, because I feel like they were trying to do this to an extent. That's what I told you. This movie really should have been more of like a Moby Dick story. I know you never read Moby Dick, but the point is that the whole story, like Moby Dick, is like a story of this old man past his prime and this beast, this sheer force of nature that can't be stopped, is just besting him, over and over again. And he sees this like this is his last hurrah that he can go out on. And that's clearly what this Samuel L. Jackson character is going for. That's what he's been looking for. It's what he wants, right? And so I think that what they should have done is focused on him and make this story about this futile need to have this, this ending, this constant warring thing, and use John C. Reilly character, because he's also a soldier, as a mirror for Samuel L. Jackson. Because then the guy who we saw at the beginning of this film, so motivated by his belief in this war and everything and seeing Gunpei as this enemy, he's now views Gunpei as a friend, and he's his brother. That's what I think they should have done, have Samuel L. Jackson's character connect with the John C. Reilly character, and use the difference. You could see where, or Samuel Jackson's character would see where he's now fucking up, and like that's what John C. Reilly's character is there to do. But that would have been a far more interesting story. But they didn't go that route. They didn't go that route at all. But that, I think, is where the movie should have focused itself.
I think even the way that they had Samuel L. Jackson's character, Packard, Lieutenant Colonel Packard, I think even the way they had him die was bullshit too. Because I'm like, yeah, he's this dominant presence throughout the whole film, and you don't get to know anything about him. You really don't. At the end of the film, you know exactly what you know about him from the very first time you see him in the film. Mm-hmm. You don't know anything about him. You don't know. He never once mentions parents, siblings, wife, kids. Nothing. He never, you don't ever know anything about him. He's just a soldier. He just wants to kill. Yep. And so I felt like the way he died was not befitting what kind of because he should die bloody. He shouldn't just get squished. That's just,
well, he died pretty bloody then. If he
it is, but not. I mean, but sauce. What I think would have been cool is if he would have decided not to kill Kong, and if he would have went for the skull, the skull crawler, and detonated the bombs. Because that's how he wanted to go out. He chose this. That's what he wanted to do. But then, he at the last minute, he maybe realizes there's a greater threat than Kong, and it's this thing. And my job as a soldier is to protect the innocent. So this is what I'm going to do. It's that to me would have made a lot more sense for his character. And
that's a good idea. And John C. Reilly character could have been the means of how they go into that. Yeah. I saw an enemy. I saw nothing but an enemy in Gunpei. At first. But if you take away everything, if you just look at what it is, he became my brother. And he could do the same thing, the Samuel Jackson's character, I guess I forgot his name, Packard.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel
could
Packard.
Do the same thing with Kong. He could realize that he showed up dropping bombs, and then Kong just responded. And he's fighting off all these other things, protecting these other people in the village. He could learn all this stuff as he goes, which we too are learning it as Colonel Packard goes, because he should be the one we focus on. He's us, essentially. He's going into this whole thing just like we are, unknowing of everything that's going on. And then he learns that, I need to be going after the skull crawler. And like you said, sacrifice him. You're so smart. You got good ideas.
It's the mimosas.
You got
It's the vitamin C and the alcohol.
What do you think of Kong? I mean, we watched the Godzilla movie, and we're also going to be watching Godzilla King of Monsters soon, for you the 30th time. But so you have a really strong opinion of Godzilla. He's going to be going against Kong. What do you think of Kong from this movie? You also need to keep in mind he is still growing. He's a baby Kong right now.
I don't have a problem with King. I love Kong. I've always loved Kong. I think he's great because he's a relatable, quote unquote, monster or titan.
I've been through the same thing he's been through. It's very relatable.
I mean, because it's like you know, and it doesn't really matter what film you see King Kong in. There's always a scene in a King Kong film where you see how lonely he is. He is utterly alone. His parents were killed. He's all by himself, and you can feel that for him. And not only that, but he is not a mindless monster. He feels and he thinks and he connects with the humans. Like there's multiple scenes, you know, where he connects with Brie Larson's character. And even in the upcoming trailer for Kong versus Godzilla, there's apparently a little girl from Skull Island that he is connected to. But he feels things for people, and he can have an actual relationship with people and with other animals. And even like in the movie, he protects the other animals. You know, there's that big water buffalo looking thing that he pulls the helicopter off of, that because it's stuck, and he pulls the helicopter off of it, and so it can go free. He's got a lot of heart, and so I love Kong. I think he's a great character. I don't want to go as far as to say he's like honorable and he has dignity and things, because I feel like that's reaching. He's an animal essentially. He's just a really big animal, but at the same, but he does. He has a lot of heart, and he's got a lot of fight, and you can't help but feel for him. You can't help but root for him, because he's kind of like Rocky. You know, it's like he's an underdog, but you're rooting for him because you want him to win. So I love Kong. I think Kong is the only good thing about this film. I mean, he's the only good thing about this film. I mean, it's like I could, you know, and I feel for him so bad. And I mean, the other King Kong film that was made that Peter Jackson directed, I cried during that film because of Kong.
Because of the ice skating scene.
Oh, that was just, oh my God, that was heartbreaking.
He's just gonna start crying.
Shut up. It's so sad. If you ever saw the Peter Jackson King Kong film, there's a scene once he gets back to New York and he escapes after they have him chained up, and he escapes. They're in Central Park, and they're playing, and they're like playing on the ice, and he's just like scooting around on the ice, and she's playing, and they're just kind of sharing this beautiful moment. And then they start like trying to blow him up. They start dropping bombs and everything, and he's scared and he's angry and he's trying to protect himself and he's trying to protect her, and it's such bullshit. It breaks my heart.
He was just so happy.
He was
just
so
skating
happy.
around on this damn
I'm
ice.
gonna cry. Stop it. Oh God. It's so sad. Like, I can't stand it. Like, it hurts my heart so bad. And so, like, in this film, I feel so bad for Kong because, like, his parents are gone. He's all by himself, and he's constantly having to fight off all of these threats. And he's just utterly alone. And I feel for him so badly. And then you've got, you know, these asshole Americans that show up and start dropping bombs and trying to wake up, basically, essentially waking up the monster that killed his freaking parents. Yeah. And it's just like how you pointed out last night. It's like the whole movie is basically Kong just going around going, shh, shut the fuck up. You just shut up. God damn it.
You're going to wake him up. Shut the fuck up.
I know. I mean, and that's all this film is. And you just can't help it. Like the whole movie is just Kong trying to clean up after all these freaking people making these messes. He keeps getting his ass handed to him just because these stupid freaking people just can't stop being assholes. So, you know, I feel very much like in this film, we are the villain and Kong is the underdog. And I love the fact that he comes out on top victorious.
Absolutely. Last question. Is this better than the Peter Jackson King Kong?
Oh, not even.
No. That movie, I think, is not, it's not a perfect film. It's got flaws.
That movie is not great. However,
It's got heart.
It's got heart.
It's got the fucking heart.
It made me cry. Like I was just talking about that scene, and there's even other scenes where you get to see his connection with with the main actress in the film, which is it's absolutely, it's so devastating. It's so hurtful. You feel so bad for him. And Jack Black, that was the first film that I ever saw Jack Black playing a serious role, and it blew my mind how good he was in that film. At that
I can't get over his Kung Fu Panda moment. And you still haven't seen Kung Fu Panda.
I've never watched Kung Fu Panda.
Everybody shame her in the comments.
I've never seen Kung Fu Panda.
He starts losing in that bug pit. He grabs a spear. You can see him he has this serious moment. He's like, ah! He starts fighting all these bugs and starts kicking the shit out of all of them. Everybody else is freaking out, and he's just taking care of business.
I know it was really weird. I remember thinking how odd it was. Like, why was he cast in this film? I still to this day
Maybe
don't
he's a
know
big
what.
Kong fan.
I still to this day don't know what led to that. And Adrian Brody, I thought I thought he was really strange to cast because, again, kind of like Tom Hiddleston, I don't see him being like this tough adventurer guy because let's face it, he's tall and scrawny. But he like goes through all this stuff to keep trying to save her, and I'm like, yeah, you're not.
Man, he wasn't gonna back down. That was just who he was at his core.
Though. He has no skill in the jungle.
He would have wrote her. He's a writer. He would have wrote her an apology letter. Like, sorry, I left you to die.
Sorry, you're
How about
dead.
your eulogy?
Sorry, you're dead. I will grieve over you during long winter evenings while I sip this cognac.
I think the Peter Jackson King Kong movie, I think the reason it's better is because
the reason it's better is because this one sucks so bad.
Well, I mean, it's not great because like there's the whole dinosaur running thing, not the T-Rexes, but the long necks, and they all start just like falling over one another. I think the story was more focused. The tone was obviously more focused, but I think it was better because they actually built Kong far more as a character. Because there was even a moment where when he has the woman, they're playing around, and she's juggling for him and whatnot, and he keeps knocking her over, and he's having a fucking ball laughing his ass off, and then she gets up and she's like, no, and he's like, what the fuck? Why don't you just yell at me? He starts pouting and shit, and she has to like, come on, it's I'm sorry, look, you can't be knocking me over and shit. And
I
he's like,
know,
I'm an asshole.
I know, and that's the thing. I mean, you do, like, you see them get this connection with each other, and it's so heartfelt and genuine.
He's a character.
He is a character. You start to feel him. You start to understand his character, and you get invested in him as a character. And and that's something that was a total missed opportunity in this film, Skull Island, because there was only there was only like 2 scenes I can remember where you actually kind of see a glimpse of how he might be feeling. Like there's one scene where he's sitting on like his little cliff side, and he's just looking out at the
Aurora Borealis thing.
Yeah, and he's and you can see it. He just kind of, the way that he's kind of sitting there and like he kind of sigh, and you can see how sad and lonely he is. There should have been a lot more of seeing him interacting with the other animals. I'm sorry. There should have been scenes where he was connecting with the natives. They've lived on this island with him their whole lives, his whole life. You can't tell me they don't have a relationship. I mean,
why did he not give a single one of those people a high five? Should have just walked through there. It's like, what's up, everybody? Like the people in the concert.
I'm trying to be serious.
The people at the concert, whenever like the people in the crowd there, and they go to the edge of the stage, and it's like, yeah, and then breaking their hand across all their people. Why the fuck was he doing that shit?
Probably because he would break all of their bodies.
A goddamn bottle of champagne the size of Texas.
I'm trying to be serious.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to give serious synopsis of things.
Synopsis?
Is that even in the right context?
Criticisms.
I'm actually trying to do this, legitimately. I'm trying to sound like a serious reviewer, even though I'm not. And you're messing this up for me. You're not taking this seriously. I'm over here about to cry, thinking about, fake dinosaurs stumbling over themselves, okay?
Oh my God. And they just get their necks tied together. Like, oh, fuck, this is a cartoon.
You know what? Land Before Time is a cartoon, and I can't even think about it without crying.
Then don't do that. I know what happens there. Don't. Shh. Don't start thinking about the movie.
You should ask him sometime what happened the last time that he brought that movie up.
Oh my God.
In front of me.
I had to take her to go get ice cream and just had to bring her a bunch of some apple pie. Get her a blanket, tuck her in, tell her everything's okay and the world's beautiful.
I seriously can't even talk about that movie without bawling my eyes out. I can't watch it and I can't talk about it. It hurts me to my core. Anyway, yeah, I'm just soft. I'm a big softie. I think softy's even an understatement. I'm a marshmallow. I'm a melted marshmallow. I'm marshmallow fluff is what I am.
You're poof. You're just a big old thing of cotton. Just squeeze the shit out of it.
I'm just so soft.
With our newly established patented review system.
It's a sheet.
It's a sheet? I thought you said it was a quilt. We agreed it was a quilt. It's a sheeted quilt.
Okay, no,
it's a quilted sheet.
It is a quilt, but
it's a very fucking thin one. It's a thin quilt.
It's a thin quilt. Like it doesn't have anything in between the fabrics. It's just it's a patchworked. It sucks.
It's a gift that you don't want. It's that one thing that your granny's like, I made this for you, and it was like,
and you
really shouldn't have.
You really like you keep it because you know that it has sentimental value, but you know you'll just shove it in a closet and never look at it again.
Well, fantastic. The next movie we're going to be reviewing is Godzilla, King of Monsters, and we should be doing that one pretty soon. I think we're going to do Batman vs. Superman, then the theatrical cut of Justice League, and then eventually it's going to be Zack Snyder's Justice League that comes out. Something along those lines. I don't know. We'll see.
Sounds good to me. I need more mimosas.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll be back. We'll be back.
I won't drink mimosas next time.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Abby someone. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby normal.